On April 1, 2026, 4 astronauts left Earth and traveled to the Moon. They did not land on it. They flew around it, passed behind it, and came back. Simple enough. But what they saw on the other side of the Moon during those few hours changed everything we thought we knew about that gray rock hanging in our sky every night. And some of what they found has no explanation. Even now, scientists cannot fully explain what is hiding inside the Moon. That is not a comforting thing to sit with. For your entire life, every time you looked up at the Moon, you were only seeing one side of it. The Moon does not spin freely. One face is always pointed toward Earth, and the other face is always pointed away. The side we see is called the near side. It is covered in wide, dark, flat plains. Ancient lava flows that filled enormous craters billions of years ago, cooled down, and hardened into flat dark rock. It looks calm. It looks quiet. It looks like a dead world that stopped doing anything long ago. That is the story we told ourselves. That story is wrong. The far side of the Moon looks nothing like the near side. Where the near side has smooth flat plains, the far side has craters on top of craters on top of older craters. Every single part of it has been smashed, broken, hit again, and hit again after that, for 4 billion years without stopping. It looks violent. It looks like something that went through something terrible and never recovered. The crust on the far side is 50 kilometers thicker than the crust on the near side. Scientists have ideas about why, but no one fully agrees. That asymmetry, that strange difference between two sides of the same object, has never been completely explained. Something happened to this Moon a very long time ago, something enormous, and we are still figuring out what it was. The crew of Artemis 2 were the first humans to see this landscape with their own eyes. Their names were Reed Wiseman, Victor Glover, Christina Koch, and Jeremy Hansen. They rode the most powerful rocket NASA has ever built, the Space Launch System, which stands 322 feet tall and produces 8.8 million pounds of thrust at liftoff. Within 5 minutes of launch, they were already out of Earth's orbit and on their way. The path they followed was called a free return trajectory. This means that even if their engine had completely failed after that initial burn, the Moon's gravity would have pulled them around and sent them falling back toward Earth on its own. That is considered the safest possible route to the Moon. The safest route still requires a plan for total engine failure. Think about that for a moment. As they approached the Moon, Victor Glover tried to describe what he was seeing to mission control back on Earth. He is a Navy captain. A test pilot. A man who has spent 168 days aboard the International Space Station. He has seen things most people will never see. And he could not find the words. He said that humans have probably not evolved to see what he was looking at. That it was truly hard to describe. And then the Moon took them. At 6:44 in the evening, the spacecraft passed behind the Moon. Every radio signal between the crew and Earth was cut off by the lunar body. No voice from Houston. No instructions. No help of any kind. For 40 minutes, these 4 people were completely alone. They were sealed inside a capsule the size of a large van, with 2,160 miles of solid rock between them and every other human being alive. If something had gone wrong in those 40 minutes, nobody on Earth would have known until it was already over. Mission Control would have been sitting in silence, watching a blank screen, waiting. That is not a dramatic way of describing it. That is simply what it was. During those 40 minutes, the crew kept working. They photographed. They observed. They reported to each other. Christina Koch noticed that the newer, smaller craters scattered across the ancient surface were shockingly bright. She said they looked like tiny pinprick holes in a lampshade, glowing white against gray terrain. Victor Glover became fixated on the terminator, the line where sunlight ends and darkness begins on the surface below. Along that boundary, the craters did not look like craters anymore. The sunlight hit their rims at such extreme angles that the shadows inside them looked like black holes going straight through to the center of the Moon. Glover said it looked like you could fall straight through them to the core. He was not being poetic. He was describing what his eyes were telling him. Beneath the floor of the largest crater in the solar system, something is hiding. The South Pole Aitken Basin stretches 2,500 kilometers across and goes 13 kilometers deep. It is so large that if you placed it on a map of the United States it would cover everything from Texas to Virginia. And buried at least 300 kilometers beneath its floor is a mass of dense material that weighs a minimum of 2.18 quintillion kilograms. It is heavy enough to pull the surface of the basin downward by more than half a mile. The gravity field above it is warped. Scientists believe it is the metallic core of the asteroid that created the basin in the first place, still sitting inside the moon after 4 billion years, like a bullet fragment that a body never managed to push out. It has been in there since before life existed on Earth. It is still in there right now. There is also heat that should not exist. In 2023, researchers found a region beneath the far side surface, about 50 kilometers wide, that is roughly 10 degrees Celsius warmer than everything around it. The likely source is a massive buried block of granite. Granite is a rock that forms on Earth all the time. On the moon, it should not exist. Granite requires water and plate tectonics to form. The moon has neither. The current explanation is that this granite is the leftover remains of an ancient volcano that went dormant 3.5 billion years ago, still slowly releasing heat from deep underground. The lead scientist on that study said the finding looks far more like something we would expect to see on Earth than anything we thought possible on the moon. If that unsettles you, it should. Because the obvious next question is one that nobody has a good answer to yet. What else is still warm under there? Then there are the tunnels. Radar data and high-resolution images suggest the moon has a network of underground lava tubes, tunnels formed by ancient lava flows that hardened on the outside while the molten rock inside drained away. The entrances to some of these tunnels are visible from orbit as dark pits in the surface. These tunnels could be enormous. Some estimates suggest they could be large enough to shelter entire cities inside. Nobody has gone in. Nobody knows what is inside them. Nobody knows if they are stable or if they would collapse. Nobody knows whether they contain trapped gases, frozen material, or conditions completely unlike anything on the surface. They are sealed. They have been sealed for billions of years. And we have no idea what is in them. During the flyby, the crew also witnessed a total solar eclipse from lunar orbit. As the spacecraft passed behind the moon, the sun slipped behind the lunar disk and disappeared. The eclipse lasted nearly 54 minutes, far longer than any eclipse visible from Earth. The sun's outer atmosphere, its corona, blazed out in a ring of white fire around the entire edge of the moon. And during that eclipse, both Reed Wiseman and Jeremy Hansen saw something on the surface below. Brief flashes of light. Momentary bursts that appeared and vanished before they could be confirmed. The kind of flashes that could mean small meteorites were hitting the unprotected far side. Scientists in Houston asked for more information. Both crew members confirmed seeing at least one flash. Neither could say exactly how long it lasted. People have been reporting these brief flashes of light on the moon from Earth for centuries. They appear and vanish before anyone can confirm them. Some are meteorite impacts. Some might be clouds of electrically charged dust rising from the surface. Some might be gas slowly escaping from deep inside the moon. Nobody knows for certain what causes all of them. The fact that trained astronauts in orbit saw at least one of these flashes with their own eyes during a solar eclipse, and still could not fully confirm or explain it, is not reassuring. The moon also has no atmosphere and no magnetic field to speak of. Nothing stands between its surface and the full violence of space. Every particle of solar wind, every burst of radiation, every micrometeorite hits the far side with nothing to slow it down. The Artemis II crew spent 10 days in deep space during solar maximum, which is the peak of the Sun's 11-year activity cycle. This is the period when the risk of dangerous solar storms is highest. A severe solar storm can push radiation to nearly lethal levels within hours. The Orion capsule provides more shielding than the Apollo capsules did, but the cosmic rays that come from exploding stars across the galaxy move at nearly the speed of light and can pass through almost anything humans have ever built. Alexandra Stankovich, founding director of the Center for Space Medicine Research at Massachusetts General Hospital, has called deep space radiation the single biggest limitation to how far humans can explore. The showstopper, in her words. 4 people sat inside that radiation for 10 days, during the most dangerous period of the sun's cycle, with no way to fully shield themselves from it. When the signal came back after the blackout and mission control heard the crew's voices again, the room erupted. The crew described watching Earth set behind the lunar horizon. A slow disappearance of a pale blue crescent sinking behind gray cratered rock. Christina Koch said that when you see Earth from that distance and compare it to where you are standing, it reminds you how much all of us have in common. That everything needed to survive, Earth provides. And that you cannot understand how true that is until you have seen Earth disappear behind a dead world and felt what that absence means. The crew named 2 craters. One they called Integrity. The other they called Carol, after Reed Wiseman's wife, who died in 2020. It sits on the boundary between the near and far sides of the moon. A small bright spot that you can see from Earth if you know exactly where to look. The mission set the record for the farthest any human being has ever traveled from Earth. 252,756 miles. They took thousands of photographs. Most had not yet been sent back because of data limits. The full image set would not arrive until after splashdown on April 10 off the coast of San Diego. What those images will show is a place that does not match the story we built about the moon over the last 50 years. A landscape where the rules that apply to Earth do not always apply. Where rock that should not exist sits buried under the surface. Where an unexplained mass has been lodged in the mantle since before life existed. Where sealed underground tunnels have been waiting untouched for billions of years. Where ancient patches of magnetism linger in a world that lost its magnetic field long ago. Where heat rises from places it has no business rising from. Victor Glover said it plainly after the spacecraft cleared the far side and Earth came back into view. He said the moon is not just a poster in the sky that goes by. It is a real place. He is right. And the more we learn about what kind of real place it actually is, the more terrifying that becomes. Because the moon we thought we understood turns out to be something we have barely started to understand at all. And what is hiding inside it is still waiting.